What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so I've got a video put together, and I got a decent little news article right here, but I'm going to go ahead and debunk the both sidesism right quick with one single statistic. That's all you've got to do, folks. I love this. Check this out right here, y'all. DOJ quietly removes studies showing right-wing attacks outpace those by the left. Oh my goodness, they're still trying to run and push this agenda. Once again, like I've said in the past, this agenda right here that, oh, it's right-wing extremism is indicative of all of this political violence, blah, 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 the vast majority of it, 76%, blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on and on. That narrative right there, folks, once again, is excuse making. They're trying to make excuses and justify their actions by the far left. They're trying to justify the far left taking Charlie Kirk's life, for crying out loud, by saying it's both sides. You guys need to turn the temperature down. Like, once again, folks, you heard this outpouring of turn the temperature down after July 13th, after the first assassination attempt. You saw it on both sides. Democrats come out, said, hey, we need to turn the temperature down, like your prominent Democratic politicians did. But guess what we saw in the background? The very same sect, mad, seething, just barfing all over themselves and rolling around on the ground in it because the shooter missed. They were mad about that. And we said, we need to turn the temperature down, folks. Come on, let's turn it down. We've been screaming this ever since. Man, these people are crazy. They continually call us Nazis. They continually call us blah, 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 blah. And they haven't turned the rhetoric down. It's only gone up, folks. And now they're trying to claim both sides. And I'm going to knock that down, as a matter of fact. One simple statistic, folks. But, I mean, we can all see with our eyes. We'll just keep that in the back of we'll keep that locked and loaded. We'll put it that way. The Justice Department quietly removed from its website a study showing far-right extremists were responsible for the bulk of ideologically motivated deaths, a move that comes as the GOP seeks to back claims from President Trump that the radical left poses a greater danger than the right wing. Well, they do, folks. They absolutely do. This is true. Right? I'm not saying that the far right doesn't pose any danger, but once again, in saying that, they are trying to also say, they're trying to pin this on just your run-of-the-mill conservatives. Because why else would you do that? We're sitting here screaming about the far left, and they're like, well, you guys, it's both sides. Yeah, the far right has nothing to do with conservatives at all. That's for one. Once again, folks, this is why I say it's illogical, because they're trying to justify what the far left done, because they endorse those things. Let's keep going. The 2024 study, in which several criminal justice researchers reviewed National Institute of Justice data, found far more instances of deaths credited to right-wing groups. The study was still available on the Justice Department website last week, but a researcher on extremism posted on social media that it had been removed in the days after the killing of right-wing activist Charlie Kirk. The number of far-right attacks continues to outpace all other types of terrorism and domestic violent extremism, the study says. Since 1990, far-right extremists have committed far more ideologically motivated homicides than far-left or radical Islamist extremists, including 227 events that took more than 520 lives, the study states. Now, once again, we've gone over this, and this isn't a debunk right here, but this is just common sense and it's common knowledge. When you look into those numbers, right, they take numbers from all over the place, right? They lump everything in with right wing. Right? They lump in the far right, which naturally, but, you know, conservatives, which they don't really commit murders, right? But they'll take instances where it's not really clear that it's politically motivated, and they'll lump that in with right wing. They'll take anti-government, right? And in some cases, murders by Antifa, and they lump that in with right wing. Anything anti-government, that's right wing. Islamists, that's right wing too. Well, hang on just a second. No, conservatives, they're kind of at odds with Islamists just a little bit. But that's another thing, by the way. Since 1990, right, Islamists, they're forgetting something here. Don't you think, what was it? 3,200, or I forget the exact number, but it was over 3,000 deaths by Islamist extremists on September 11th, 2001. That was since the 1990s, as a matter of fact. Don't you think that Islamist extremists should far outpace any of this? I mean, they're trying to say the far right is attributed with many, many more deaths at 500 and something, 520 lives. Well, that's a lot less than just one instance. But that's not even my debunk right there, because they're not talking about Islamist extremists, right? Which could be attributed. I could see how that could be right wing because it's a religious sect, but they have nothing in common with conservatives, hardly at all. But, I could see where that's coming from. Yeah, you could make the argument. I would argue against it, but I could see where you would make the argument, because the left wing, they constantly defend Islam. Constantly. Starting to say, oh, it's all about love. In this same period, far left extremists have committed 42 ideologically motivated attacks that took 78 lives. Now remember that, folks. That's since the 1990s. Don't you think that seems a little bit low there? Don't you think? 78 since the 1990s. Right. Like I said, folks, spoiler alert, but I'm going to debunk this pretty hard. The removal of the study was first reported Tuesday by 404 Media. That's fascinating. I didn't realize that was a thing, 404 Media, which means it doesn't exist. You ever got one of those web pages that were deleted or whatever, and it says 404 error can't be found? You think that's a coincidence? Which credited Daniel Malmer, a PhD student at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, who is studying extremism, with first noticing the removal of the study September 13th. In a post on social media, Malmer said the study had been visible the day before. The Justice Department did not respond to requests for comment on the removal of the study, but the page now says the department is reviewing its websites in accordance with recent executive orders. It's not clear which executive orders would require such action. Well, maybe, considering that you're a journalist and this is a journalism website, that you guys could do the legwork and figure that out. Maybe because it's public knowledge or public data and it's really easy to go check, look through those executive orders and see if the administration is lying about this. But no, they don't do that. They just say, we have no idea why, and move right along. The Hill has since obtained the original study, which, discussing a number of factors motivating extremists, including further radicalization by connecting with others online. Oh, you think that's not indicative of left-wing extremism either? Oh, it's just the factors of motivating extremism. Web forums included discussions about a variety of beliefs such as gun rights, conspiracy theories, hate-based sentiments, and anti-government beliefs. However, the intensity of ideological expression was generally weak. Oh, I wonder what that means. Oh, hang on just a second. The intensity of ideological expression was generally weak. What does that tell you, folks? They're kind of giving the game away right here. Oh, well, we can't really pin any ideologically motivation on this, so we're just gonna say it's right wing and move right along, folks. The nature of the online environment that far right groups use likely facilitates the diffusion of ideological agendas, it states. Now watch what they're going to do here next. What does that say? Let's read that one more time, folks. The nature of the online environments that far right groups use likely facilitates the diffusion of ideological agendas, it states. What does that mean? Mull that over for a second while I read this next line. Users grew more ideological and radical as other users reinforced their ideas and connected their ideas to those from other forums. Are you kidding me? Does the corporate press think we are freaking stupid? Those are antithetical to each other, for goodness sakes. You just told me that, the ideology was kind of diffusing. And now you're saying it's coalescing? Since Kirk's death, Trump has repeatedly blamed the left when asked about extremism within fringes of both parties. If you look at the problem is on the left. It's not the right. Some people like to say the right. The problem we have is on the left, Trump told Reporter Sunday. When you look at the agitator, you look at the scum that speaks so badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place, that's the left. That's not the right. He's totally right about that. Absolutely correct. I mean, look at the ICE protests. They're burning American flags. These are leftists, folks. You will never see conservatives burning the American flag. Never. Never see that. And once again, folks, you look at the protests all over this country. Like Destiny said this on the Piers Morgan Uncensored show that I'm going to cover this weekend, by the way, so get ready for that. But he even said it himself. You know, I think he said 7 of the 10 biggest protests in this country have been under Donald Trump. Yeah, you're giving the game away there, my dude. Like, seriously? You're telling on yourself. Because left-wing protests always turn riotous, always turn violent. Every single one of them. Right-wing protests? Yeah, not so much. They only turn violent when leftist counter-protesters show up and agitate the right wing. Like they try to blame a lot of right-wing extremism on the Proud Boys. But if you go and look into the cases, what happened? Antifa showed up and started agitating the Proud Boys. Like there's this one story I remember covering of Antifa and the Proud Boys getting into a scuffle, which they're going to call that right-wing violence, even though Antifa showed up to their protest and started messing with the Proud Boys. Essentially, it was left-wing violence, but they're going to attribute that to the right wing. But essentially what happened, they got into a scuffle. Antifa, what did they do? They run off when the cops show up. What did the Proud Boys do? They said, "Hey, officer, this is what happened. This is my name." And the Proud Boys were promptly arrested and thrown in jail. Who loves this country? That claim is countered by numerous studies, including the one removed from the Justice Department website. Yeah, once again, folks, you look into the studies, they're all funded by left-leaning or left-aligned organizations. Huh. The FBI in recent years has warned of the risks of domestic violent extremism, including those motivated by beliefs in fraud related to the 2020 election, racial and ethnic prejudice, and even COVID-19. How many deaths were related to right-wing or contributed to right-wing extremism because of fraud in the election? You look at the stats, folks, it's 1. Ashley Babbitt. That was the Pearl Harbor-esque protest that happened on January 6th, where, 3,200 service members were, no, it wasn't 3,200 service members, and several naval battleships and destroyers and cruisers were sunk. No, that didn't happen at all, did it, during January 6th? I think they had a couple of windows broken, maybe some doors broken. That's about it, folks. And one of the protesters got shot in the neck. Fascinating, that is, huh? Yeah, but they're the same, right? They're equivalent. Other recent studies have backed the conclusion that murders by far-right extremists are more frequent than those perpetrated by the left. Yeah, if you don't count the ones perpetrated by the left as left-wing. And we know they don't, folks, because, watch this. A study by the Cato Institute, a libertarian group, found that since 2020, right-wing extremists were responsible for more than half of all politically motivated deaths, 44, while left-wing extremists were responsible for 22%, a total of 18 deaths. That's their numbers. That's the Cato Institute, which once again, we've been hearing from the mainstream news that that's a conservative think tank. That's what they've been saying, but it's not, folks. It's a libertarian think tank. Which way do libertarians lean? A lot of them lean left, but there is a sect, right, that do lean right, but most of them lean to the left, folks. So remember those numbers right there. Remember the numbers from earlier, 520, right? Remember those numbers. 44 for the right and 18 for the left. Now, just think about that. It sounds absurd, right? Since 2020, and I'm assuming, right, because they said it, that it's from the beginning of 2020 until present day. 18. Hang on just a second. I could probably, honestly, without even a stat, I could probably count more with just the trans shooter deaths, to be honest with you. But they don't attribute those to left-wing violence. Once again. But I thought about that number and I was just so confused. I'm like, man, that doesn't sound right, does it? It sounds like they're missing something here. So I went to just Grok, right? Just one single stat. Check this out, y'all. The 2020 Black Lives Matter protest, sparked by the murder of George Floyd on May 25th, 2020, involved an estimated 15 to 26 million participants across the U.S. and globally, making them the largest protest movement in American history. While the vast majority, over 93 to 96%, of the more than 7,750 demonstrations were peaceful, some escalated into violence, riots, or confrontations leading to deaths. Determining an exact number of fatalities in relation to the protests is challenging due to varying definitions. Some sources count only direct protest violence, shootings during clashes, while others include incidental crimes in protest areas, vehicle incidents, or deaths involving counter-protesters and bystanders. Early media reports often inflate figures by including unrelated homicides nearby, but rigorous analyses from the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, or ACLED, exclude those. Based on comprehensive reviews, at least 25 people were killed in political violence directly tied to the 2020 protests and related unrest through October 2020. This figure includes protesters, bystanders, counter-protesters, and security personnel killed in shootings, vehicle rammings, or other confrontations at or near demonstrations. A broader tally through 2023 lists at least 36 deaths linked to the extended racial unrest period 2020 through 2023, though most occurred in 2020. Early counts in June 2020 ranged from 19 to 25, with the toll rising as more incidents were verified. So, that one statistic right there just destroys that. Completely destroys that. Completely, folks. Now, you might think that, well, all of those 36 can't be all, right? No. We can blame every single one of those, because if we look once again into the data, we go back and look, anybody that would be considered right-wing were defending themselves from BLM protesters, for goodness sakes. Every single one of them, right? Kyle Rittenhouse. You going to call that right-wing extremism? The dude was defending himself, but that's chalked up into the right-wing extremist. As if he wasn't defending himself. That was a self-defense use of a weapon and taking out somebody. That's what that was. That wasn't right-wing extremism. So they skew the data to try to browbeat you into this both-sidesism nonsense to excuse the murder of Charlie Kirk. It's utter disgusting. It's garbage, folks. All of it's garbage. Don't believe your lying eyes. They're trying to tell you that only 18 people since 2020. Lies, folks. Lies. All of the school shootings probably account for more than that. All of the trans shooters, for goodness sakes, account for more than that. Then you look at the BLM protests. But hang on, they're not factoring in the BLM protests, are they? Not at all, folks, because they don't take in the data correctly, because they have a vested interest in browbeating you to excuse far-left violence, folks. That's what they do. That's exactly what they do. So don't let the BS fool you. These people are sick scumbags. That's all they are, folks. Just utter scumbags. So we're not going to take it anymore, folks. We must stand up to this nonsense. We must push back. And when they try to claim both sides, push back. Say, no, screw you. The BLM protests by themselves, it was enough. $2 billion worth of damage. An entire summer of riots. All of it left-wing extremism. All of it. Every single bit of it. Even if a conservative was defending themselves, they want to try to attribute that to right-wing extremism. That's insane, folks. It's truly, truly, truly insane. And I can't believe these people. But, you know, I like to keep my videos a little bit short. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here. I could keep going, but, you know, it is what it is. We on timetable here. So y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. It blows my mind, y'all. It really does, that these people are still trying to run with that line, trying to give you the narrative. Let your lying eyes fool you. We'll give you the stats. Right? I've been reading news since 2023 heavily, like several news articles per day. And I can't think of a single right-wing extremist violent. Not right off the top of my head. I mean, you could look to January 6th, but I wouldn't really attribute that to right-wing extremism. Once again, compare that to any day during the summer of love, and it was a mild day, very mild. We didn't burn any federal courthouses down. We didn't burn down the Capitol, for crying out loud. Hardly anybody, you know, one of the protesters were harmed, and that was it. Sure, some cops got beat on, but once again, that's kind of mild. Once again, compare that to any day during the summer of love, folks. Well, there I go rambling again. But y'all let me know what y'all think. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. And click that join button. I would be deeply appreciative if you guys would do that. And y'all remember that God is always with us. And He loves each and every one of you out there. So y'all remember that. Try to have a good day. And stay legitical. Peace.